Shawnee.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome. Welcome. So happy to see you guys this morning as we talk about legacy building as we continue this conversation this morning. Good morning, Adam. Good morning for joining us this morning. And just grateful for another beautiful day and an opportunity to share and to just engage with each other about just the whole process of legacy. And if you're a member and been watching the community for last week, we've been talking about legacy. And so today we're definitely gonna pour more into you in regards to legacy. So super grateful that you're here this morning. Thanks for joining us, Doreen, Sakia, Keisha. I see you, Robin, Marie, everyone out there. Thank you so much for waking up this morning with us today. Catherine and Jacqueline and Joy, thank you again for coming in this morning. Super excited to have you here. Day 466. Man, we're almost at the end. It's a long time coming. So I'm so grateful for you guys for coming in today. Thank you so much. As I see you coming in, Keisha and Marie, I see Keisha as well coming in. So thank you so much. People, join us. If you're not in the conversation, how can we know if you're building legacy? Join us in this conversation this morning. Share with others. Let's have a full conversation about the importance of building legacy and continuing to build that personal legacy, because this week we did learn about the various legacies. And so thank you so much for coming. And I look forward for your engagement. Hey, Adam, I see you out there. Zakia, thank you so much for coming.
Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, together, releasing. We're teaching, we're moving. Together, together, we're learning, discerning, we're striving. Together, together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together, together.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again. My name is Imelba Martinez. I am bringing to you today legacy through real estate. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share this morning and to share through my journey on how legacy can be built through real estate. Just a little bit about me. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, a sister, a daughter. By profession, I'm a licensed real estate associate broker. I've been licensed for 16 years in the state of New York. I also have worked in community development work where I help people buy their home for the first time through education. I help people foreclosure prevention. I actually worked in Bedford-Stuyvesant where we actually built programs to help people stay in that community through tenants' rights, through senior services, through economic development, working with merchants, as well as financial education, working with youth workforce development. And so all of that I bring to you today, along with my experience that I've lived over the last, I don't want to say how many years, but this time frame. And so I thank you this morning for this opportunity to share. So let's go to the first slide. This scripture right here is a scripture that this is what I live my life on, right? A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And sometimes even reading it just kind of just gives me it gives me some good vibration in regards to just being able to really what that means. And so I love to hear, before I share for me how that resonates, I love to hear from the community if possible, a few people, when you see that or when you read that, what does that mean to you? How does that land in your life? What resonates for you when you read that? I see some hands raising.
Yeah, you have Adam. Hold on one second. So Adam, unmute yourself, please.
I see Adam.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good morning. When I hear that quote, it means that a good person is being selfless, and he's building something that's bigger than he is or she is, and it's all about creating a legacy world where the children won't have to struggle to create a legacy. It's all about creating a heaven for others to pass on. That's how I see it.
Thank you so much, Adam. I definitely am in alignment with what you're sharing with me, because that's definitely one of the ways I see it as well. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
Hold on one sec.
A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children.
All right, we have Zakia with her hand up. So Z, unmute yourself, please.
Zakia?
Greetings, good morning, Imelda. Good morning, Moo family. Yeah, that's kind of a sticking point for me. It's about creating a legacy and teaching the children what that legacy is so that they can carry it on as well. That's what it means to me.
Thank you so much for sharing, Zakia. I appreciate that. I'm gonna take one more person if one more person would like to share.
Sure. Hold on one second. So Aaliyah, if you could unmute yourself. I know you're a mom. I'm not sure what your plans or desires about being a grandma. We're talking about great-grandchildren here. So are you willing to share, Aaliyah?
Oh, Shawnee. Good morning, everyone. Greetings.
Good morning.
I can share, but I can't turn the camera on. It's early, but thank you for calling on me. I was gonna raise my hand just innately, but then I said, no, let me not, because I was thinking inheritance in terms of just like morals and values. I know we're talking about real estate, but I was just thinking about just like values, belief systems, positivity, things of that nature, because oftentimes we do see monetary inheritance and people are fussing and fighting straight on down the line. So hopefully today you can talk about, not only real estate, but then also how to set it up so that people, the family members, are not fussing and fighting and bickering and things of that nature. Because I think that's another element too that I've seen personally.
I appreciate that. I've witnessed that as well. So I definitely will touch
Yeah.
upon that as well. And as we go into this conversation this morning, I would like to kind of just take a poll that you can put in your chat, just to kind of share, to know who's in the room with me this morning, and it would be the time for the poll, if that's possible.
So
And
I'm
the-
thinking that how we can do this is that we can save a question and I will write it in the chat, and then the participants can type the number 1 if it's a yes. If it's a no, then they'll leave it. They won't type anything. Unless you need to know, unless you want to know the distinction.
No, that's fine. I just kind of like to just know who's in the community this morning.
Okay,
That's
so
fine.
for this first question, number 1 is going in the chat, and it's, are you a homeowner? And you will answer, if you are a homeowner, say, type in the number 1. And I'll let that go for let that continue for another 30 seconds. Okay, looks like it came to a standstill. The second question is labeled number 2. Your response is going to be 2. If it's a yes, you're going to enter 2. All right. And the question is, are you looking to purchase? Yes answer will be a number 2. All right, counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ebony just slides right in.
Fantastic.
The third question is number 3. Your response, if it's a yes, will be a 3. And that question is not at all.
Can you just add an additional piece to the question?
Oh, not at all. I'm not interested in purchasing, and I'm not a homeowner.
Got that.
All right. So I can do a summary, I think.
While Kenyofu summarizes and shares, I'll say a little bit about this, if it's okay, because I'm not sure where you're taking it.
It's fine.
All right,
I
wonderful.
appreciate that.
So I'm 53. I'm a grandmother. I have 2 grandchildren. I have 3 children, 1 deceased. However, I was in a story about being this age and not owning property. I was in a story of not knowing what to do to manifest property. And so delaying it. I'm not ready. I'm not worthiness, but just thinking that I didn't have enough resources to generate. But the other day I talked about legacy, and what was mentioned is by Aaliyah is the bickering about property. For me, your emotional legacy, your familial legacy, and your personal legacy, if you're bringing that forward and sharing it with people with authenticity and intentionality, then the fighting and the bickering won't happen, because you're speaking all along and modeling all along that, so that doesn't have to happen. But for me, in a different conversation, like yesterday, I was riding around and I'm like looking at all these properties, and I'm excited about what my property will be like and what I want to experience, because it's a little bit too tight in New York for me as far as property. I want land and water and trees. And so I'm looking upstate. But a few years back, I would have been like, you're never going to do this. And what's up with you that you don't have property? Like you're too old, so, that's the story with me and not having it.
Thank you so much for sharing, Shawnee. I appreciate you being able to just give us a little bit about just your thoughts and your story. I did want to go into my story as well, but I wanted to go back to the scripture, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. It says a good person, and I think even though you may not think you're giving inheritance, does that make you a bad person? I don't think so. I just think that at the end of the day, something that was shared earlier is that we want to be able to grow, right? And I believe in building. I'm not here for me today. My life and my testimonies for others to learn from. And I hope that today, through my story and through my journey, that I'm able to awaken or share with people things that they may have gone through, or things they may have heard, or things that they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that can happen. So I truly believe that I'm here to teach others, to teach my kids. Zakia said it, Zakia said it best, teaching legacy. It's not just only about gathering possessions. It's about how did you gather that possession and being able to teach that same exercise to someone else. So I want to take you on this journey with me, young girl from Brooklyn. That's why I got the brownstones, Brooklyn. That's where I'm from. I had to say it out loud like that because sometimes I just think Brooklyn is the Mecca. Anywhere you go, everyone wants to claim it, even if they've only lived there for 5 seconds or passed by it. And I know there's people,
I'm sorry, Imelba, I'm sorry. Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear what the results are now?
Sure. I'm sorry. Share with me the poll.
Right.
What we got here?
No worries. So not everyone voted. 22 out of 26 voted, and I voted twice. I don't know if anybody else did that, but we have, are you homeowner? 10 people said yes. Are you looking to purchase? 12 people said yes, and 1 person says not at all.
Got it. Thank you so much for that recaps. I figured as I was looking through the chat, I saw that there was a mix and a good even mix, which is great. So like I shared with you guys, I want to take you on this journey for how I came into this space of and thinking of the inheritance for my children's children. So going into Brooklyn, growing up, if you can just, I grew up in Cypress Hills, Brooklyn, which I also thought was East New York, Brooklyn at the time. That's a whole nother story. My mom, who came from Puerto Rico, who landed where most Puerto Ricans land is in the South Bronx, but she was determined to have her own home. I grew up in a single parent household where the mother was obviously the matriarch of the family. And just in that house, it was a 2-family house. My mom was determined to have a house that wasn't attached because she didn't want to hear her neighbors, being that she was living in an apartment building, she can hear them all the time. And so she was searching for a home that was completely detached. In that home there was a 2-family home. We lived on the top floor, and talk about generations. My grandmother, she lived in the attic. Now the attic was nice because some people may be like, attic, that sounds a little suspect, but it was an apartment that was made for my grandmother. And so it's 3 generations of women living in this household. I do have 2 older brothers that live with us as well. They're part of the story as well. But just, we lived on the top floor. I had residents who lived on the first floor. We had access to the basement. It was just a great experience. Where I lived close to the corner. So if you're familiar with Fulton Street in Brooklyn, the J train, we would hear the train. And it was just, I wouldn't hear it on my side of the room, but I would hear it in my mom's room because it was in the front. And when I hung out with my friends, we sat on the front porch, and we always have to stop our conversation because the train was running through. But that was my growing up experience. We had a balcony, and I was able to see my friends. And if I was in trouble, I would try to talk to them from the balcony because I couldn't go downstairs to speak to them. But in that experience, I didn't really quite understand or know what was going on in that household. And we got in the beginning as far as my mom being the owner of the home. You know, I made friends with the residents in the property. And I noticed when I was making friends, that first, you know, like the first day of the month, I wouldn't see my friends. Or, you know, when the heating season came on, there was some issues. I was never asked to go into their apartment, and I could never ask them to come into mine. So we would play on the staircase, in the stairwell of the hallway. That would be our place where we would meet, and we would chat and talk, and everything was fine. And I didn't realize it's like, okay, you know, my mom, things would change between my mom. They wouldn't have conversation with my mother. It was just always me and the kids having conversation. Or, you know, there was frequent movement. I would see a friend a year or two, and then they would be gone. I'm like, what is going on? And it never dawned to me. And now in hindsight, as a landlord, what was going on. It was, you know, obviously rent was due on the first of the month. So that's a possibility I wouldn't see my friends or their family. Or the heat, you know, heating seasons come and there's bickering about too much heat, not enough heat, those types of things. And my mom was doing this on her own. Single mom, 3 kids, working as a nurse, working all these shifts as a nurse, and making this happen because she wanted to have an inheritance for her children's children. She didn't come from a house or her own house. And so she felt the importance of sharing this for us. Come, thank you, Veronica. Come my high school year, my mom was going through her own things, and we moved to Texas for like a very small window of my life. And then we to come back to New York to not have a home. During the time that my mom and my mother and I just went to Texas, my brothers were around. Thank you, Catherine. And my mom lost her house to bankruptcy. She had to bankrupt the home, and I no longer had that security. I remember my friends telling me in high school, like, where are you living now? Because I was moving into different houses in Queens and apartments, and I didn't have that same security that my mom had as a landlord. And so she was the one on the first of the month moving around to pay, or having those conversations about the heat, or whatever conversations, or me not being able to have the conversation about just fixing things and repairs, all of those things. I remember when we moved into her home, and I was like, we need to repair this as if it was ours. And she was like, no, it's not ours. And I didn't understand that. So that was high school, moving around. And then came my time in college. My mom, like I said, she was always determined to have her own home. And she purchased another house. And this house, I call it our staple home. Thank you, Laura. Our staple home, because this home is we still own it. And not only do we own that one, my mom decided I have 2 other siblings to purchase 2 other homes. So each of us can have a home. And this goes back to where I think Aaliyah had said it earlier about morals and values and bickering and things. It came to a halt where it was just the fact that it was me who would be the person who would hold this legacy. My brothers were not interested in owning a home other than the one they would live in. And it was me who had to pass the torch to move forward in continuing the legacy. So I want to stop there because I can go on and on and on and on. But I want to hear from the community if anyone wants to share about their journey on legacy through real estate has impacted them and their family. So feel free to kind of share with us.
I would love to share.
I didn't hear.
Just Kinyofu would love to share.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. So yeah, my family, my grandmother had a house. We had a couple of houses in the family that was a generational thing, and the breakdown that my grandmother shared was that her uncle had purchased all these houses, but he didn't share things with her. And this was definitely a, you know, I'm the man and you're the woman type of experience. He gave her a house to live in, and then he passed it on to her when he passed on. But what he didn't do while he was living was to tell her the details of what he was doing. So all the legacy that he created, a lot of it he lost because he was not being upfront and sharing, but we did have some left. And so as my grandmother had the house, another uncle gave her another house. So I grew up seeing my grandmother going back and forth between the two houses, repairing things. She would be walking down the street with her purse that was very heavy, but inside her purse, she had tools because she was going to fix things. And then the tenants, she was always in the tenants' apartments, and I loved to go with her. She would have these conversations with them, collecting rent. And that was my life growing up with her. And so my mother, I grew up with my mother also having a house. And, you know, this is just, so that was my experience having houses in the family. And still there was a missing about how to continue that. And yeah, so there's still a lot, the story continues. The stories, I'm still working on building the story and keeping the legacy and growing that in my own way.
Thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to share something. I know Shawnee put it in. Thank you. Information sharing is always, when people take property and it's like, it's mine. I worked hard. I put all my sweat and tears into this property and I'm not gonna let it go. But I've never seen a hearse followed by a flatbed with a house on it. So that stays. And so information sharing, which, you know, I hope as we have this conversation today, it's important. And we at least at minimum lay the groundwork on saying that information sharing and the how-to is important. I see Sakia's hand up. You wanted to share? And then Terry.
Greetings again. I grew up in a family of contradictions. My father's side of my family in Bermuda were very big on ownership for the family. I want to go back like 2 or 3 greats. Brought property that was never to be sold outside of the family. It was supposed to be passed down. And I grew up knowing that, and I assumed everybody else in the family kind of knew it until recently, within the last decade, 2 main pieces of that legacy were sold outside of the family. The main one being the family homestead, my grandparents' home, My aunt sold it. Actually, she started the process, and her husband, who wasn't even Bermudian, sold it and then moved out of Bermuda and took the money back to the States and bought property here, which is really frustrating. So I've been in a lot of mental states that have prevented me from doing what I wanted to do by now, but I'm still here, so I'm not stopping. I'm waking up thanks to and remembering what my intentions were. One of them is to get that property back. My mom's side of the family owned a home in a historic part of Queens, Asley Park. They lived down the street from Lena Horne. My mom used to babysit Lena Horne's children. And they sold it to get a co-op, which they don't actually own. I was a baby. In fact, I was a baby when they sold it, because I have actually, like, really I say maybe like before 5 years old. They sold it I was around 3, but I actually remember being in that house when we came here from Bermuda to visit. And then I remember coming to visit, and we weren't there anymore. We were in this apartment. I had never been in an apartment because we don't really have apartments in Bermuda. So that was like a very strange experience for me. And when I got older, I always wondered why they would sell something so valuable to get something that has no value. I never understood that, but there was no one to ask because I didn't know how to formulate the questions, to ask the questions. And of course, it was past tense anyway. They had already sold it long before, by the time I became aware of things like that. But I've always felt that property is something that should be secured. So if a family can secure a place for their family to grow up, and then their children to grow up, and then their grandchildren to grow up, and on down the line, that's something they should value and maintain, and teach the children the value so that they understand and they'll continue it. For me, that's like almost the most important part, because if they don't understand, then that's how things just get sold off and nobody even knows what's going on. So I think I'm complete.
No, thank you so much for sharing. You dropped so much information in that. And a lot of the times, well, one thing is sometimes it is a plan, right? It's a plan, and it's also about everyone who's in the plan discussing it. Years ago, I did this workshop called Keep It in the Family, and we had different panelists. And one thing that was so profound to me in that conversation was not everyone is going to be the CEO of the family. It's going to be the CFOs, the COOs, and the CO. No. That was not going to be part of that family, because they're just going to be a good, And so we have to early on have those conversations and know who's going to be in charge. Just like I said, share with you earlier, my brothers said, I don't want to be a part of this, because they didn't have a good experience in their world of seeing my mom struggle as a landlord. So they didn't want to know parts of it. And that was discussed, that has been written, and that has been, that has been part of the conversation. And so it does take a time for us to stop for a second and sit down and really analyze what it is that we have as a family, and who has what rights in that family to do something like sell off a property. Now, I've never been, someone is older and they decide they want to transition from a larger home to a smaller home. I'm never opposed to that, but I think the part is, what are you using that profit for, right? Because you may, as an older person, your family is big and then it's small, and you decide I want a smaller home or something moving forward. I've always said, what is it that you're going to use those proceeds for? Because then you can still build. Now you use one big home and you can buy multiple homes. but buy it as a clan and not as a single person. So thank you so much, Zakia, for sharing. Can we ask Terry if she wants to join in and share with us?
Good morning, everyone.
Good
This is a
morning.
very interesting subject. On my mother's side, on the maternal side, there is land. They came to they spread out all over this the states, but they came to the different states by way of South Carolina. There is land in the family, but there is land, and some of the elders who are handling the estate, it's almost like a taboo subject. And I raised it because folks are getting older. And I was like, okay, what's going on with the land? You know, what is the expectations as it pertains to the younger generations, so that we can keep the land in the family, so that we don't lose the land due to taxes, which many of us do when we don't understand. So I have not gotten much clarity on that. What I did is my mom had to.
Terry, we
So
can't
she
hear
had to
you.
leave her home. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now.
Okay. My mom left a bad marriage, and so we had to bounce around a lot. Our addresses changed a lot. Our friends changed a lot. And what I decided was that I was going to be more stable. So I moved 3 times as an adult, once to an efficiency. I was a tenant, which I hated because I had a horrible landlord, once to an apartment, and then to the home that I am in now. I have had conversations with my son that this home should stay inside the family, and that if we decided to sell the home, that the only way the home would be sold is if we replaced it with another home. The home is paid for. So it is truly our home. It is part of our legacy. Real estate is one of the most valuable legacies that you can have. And I think folks don't always understand the importance of that when you're looking at your value and your assets. It is true that if you take care of your home will take care of you. When I went through some hard times, I was able to borrow against my home to keep myself in my home and to continue to support myself. And I gave it back because I was like, okay, when I borrow against my home, somebody else has their hands on my home. So I did what I needed to do to get myself stable. And then I paid off my debt, even though I know some folks believe you should never pay off your home. But I did because I felt more secure that it was mine. And that's what I wanted to share of my legacy and how I'm passing it on to my son and the importance of it.
Thank you so much, Terry, for sharing it. Something you shared and something that Zakia shared in the chat. When we're having these conversations about transferring wealth or making these declarations of like, this is what we want this home to be moving forward for generations, let's make sure we put it in writing. Let's make sure we invite an estate planner. A lot of the times people think estate, I don't have an estate. The minute that you became a homeowner, you have an estate. And you want to make sure that you're inviting an estate planner, someone who does this at 100%, not does this and other things, to actually walk you through this process from a will to a trust to a living will. There's many different applications that need to be put into place because one of the things I experienced as a foreclosure prevention counselor in the time of in Bedford-Stuyvesant, when gentrification was actually on the cusp of it, where people were losing homes who didn't have a mortgage on their property because they either passed it on to a child or heir who wasn't clear on the process. They refinanced it to 100% and never paid, didn't know that they had to pay taxes, insurance on the property, foreclosed on it because they never paid the taxes. And there was a lien from the house. And then anybody who came to their door who had cash, because no one wants to live in that stress of paying this debt, just sold it to them below market value, at an extreme below market value, so they can move on. And then those people didn't have no other place to go. They couldn't stay in the neighborhood because the prices were going up. So it's very important to have your team. As a property owner, you have a team. You have your lawyer, you have your estate planner, you have, you should have your plumber and all those other people, electricians, everyone on your team. But in this particular instance, in legacy building, you want to make sure you have, if it's not a will, at minimum, a trust. Something Zakia said, which is, is appropriate, is a trust is going to keep, you have to know what type of trust, but a trust will keep the property in the family. But there has to be instruction, and this cannot be like a one-person conversation between you and yourself if you have kids and other, heirs, because then the kids get married, right? And then their spouses may have a different conversation with them. Oh, why are you keeping this house? We should sell it. We need a house. All of these different conversations happen. So it's important to, like we sharing earlier, get that foundation going in that conversation. I wanted to just kind of, I don't see any other hands, but I wanted to just go through this, continue with the story, if that's okay, in regards to
before,
yes.
yes, that would be wonderful. I do want to share what Jacqueline wrote in the chat. And she specifically said, she specifically said she doesn't want to talk. So she says her mom had a 2-family house in the Bronx. She had to put it in her father's name, even though she was the one to put the down payment on it, because he had better employment record than she had. They were not married. My father had a daughter that my mother helped him raise. My father was physically abusive to my mother, so she left him. We moved into an apartment and he left the home. She rented it to a friend who damaged the home. My mother got married and fixed the house, and we moved back into it. Long story short, she sold the house by having someone impersonate my father to avoid a legal battle with him and his now adult daughter. She moved to Florida and purchased a property with her new husband, complete with a rental apartment on the same property. She was completely dependent on her husband because she did not drive. Her husband, another story, was why she lost it. For that reason, I am very much in control of my family's financial legacy.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jacqueline. And this is, we learn, right? That's the whole part. We're learning from our experiences, right? Although my mom had these homes, financial things is not her wheelhouse. So I've learned from her experience, right? And not to say, and as I continue the story, I was placed in a situation where I was helping people who were facing foreclosure keep their home, and I was actually going through foreclosure as well, right? I was actually experiencing it in the property that I shared with you guys, our staple property. That property where I was in my 20s and my mom said, "Did you want to be a homeowner?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Okay, well, here you go. It's a 2-family house, and it was an empty apartment and a family of 4 men living on the 2nd floor." And she said, "Okay, here's your opportunity." And just to share a quick story about that is just, I was an event planner and I used to do events, and we were at the Labor Day parade. And at the end, I had said to the security guards, "It's the 1st of the month and I have to pick up the rent and I'm gonna need some help because I don't know who these guys are and what they're gonna do or say to me. So they're like, all right, we'll meet you there. So it was all about the image that I was coming with these guys, you know, and as I knocked on the door, and I wasn't greeted nicely, to say the least, but you know, they looked out the window and saw these guys. They're like, okay, they opened the door a little bit to tell me some more choice words about how they didn't want to pay the rent. And in that journey, the boy, there was guys who were in the house who were almost my same age, right? So that's kind of been my challenge in some of these things as a landlord, where people come like, oh, we're the same age, but I should listen to you. So homeownership has its journeys, but to fast forward, at that time when I wasn't understanding how to manage this property, it was close to foreclosure, and grateful enough to be able to manage through that. So it's definitely a journey. I appreciate everyone's sharing this morning about their journey, about their legacy. I did want to kind of touch in a little bit from just moving into some conversation around how did we get there, right? So a lot of the times when people think, okay, I'm going to transfer my property to my child. First, the conversation should be, does your child even want this house? Right? Because you're like, blood, sweat, and tears. I want to pass this on to my family. And then you find out that your child does not want to live in the state anymore, that the house is in, they were never interested, and they want to move on. What do you do then, right? Also, is your child equipped? Or it doesn't have to always be your child, but your heir, your spouse, whoever it is that's going to be transferring this wealth to, is this person equipped to manage this? Is this person, when someone dies and the property is transferred, if there's a mortgage on the property, that person has to pick up that mortgage. Are they qualified? Are they prepared are they mortgage ready to get a home? These are all things that, as we're thinking about, I own a home, and then it doesn't matter what age you're in, you should always have a plan as to what's this transfer of wealth going to look like for my family. So I did want to ask back again, before I go into more with some other points, is if some people can just share even in the chat or just to raise their hand, what are the things that you're doing? And I heard Sakia say about building a trust, that people are doing to change the narrative, as we may say, from not getting the legacy or building that legacy to actually creating that legacy. How can we change the narrative? And I can start, oh, thank you. And just changing the narrative for me, thank you, it is talking, right? For me, I have a 7-year-old and 9-year-old, and I take them with me to collect the rent. I share with them what the word mortgage means. Those are some things that I've been doing to change the narrative. I'd like to hear from Gina. I see her hand up.
Okay, good morning. Trying to start my video. One of the things that we're doing to try to change the narrative is talk to our children. When we were able to purchase our home, you know, they were very involved in the process, even though they were fairly young, about maybe 10 and 12. You know, they were involved in the process, in the selection, the viewing, and like, what were we looking for? What's important to find? And as they grew into women, talking more to them about finances, because the only advice we ever got from me financially was make $1, save a dime. That was pretty much it. That's how it worked back then. It doesn't work like that anymore. So trying to just keep them informed and involved. It did backfire on me, just so you know. The full transparency that I had created a scarcity mindset for both of them, which they shared with me later, because we then ran into trouble. We had bought an investment property, we lost it to foreclosure, we almost lost the home we live in trying to save it. So they got into like, you know, it was hard. Times were hard. Money was tight. I called it like austerity. We're going to do this austerity budget for a couple of years. And it's hard for them to now think abundance, especially my youngest. She's just like, and she's just amassing lots of cash, which she will not touch. She won't spend it. She won't invest it. I had her sit in on the money class with Coach Alicia. She's not interested because her mindset is you could lose it all. And then you have to start all over again. So, you know, but that was what we tried to do to create the legacy, keep them informed, let them know what the steps are, you know, talk to them about investments with the money that they do have. My oldest has decided she wants nothing to do with home ownership, after seeing all of that and all the drama and, you know, stress. So, but, you know, I'm hopeful that as they grow, they'll change their minds and see the value in owning the place where you live and maybe owning some other places. You know, when you get the steps right, you got to go in order, and you can't, you know, we tried to skip some steps and it backfired. But that's what we're trying to do with our daughters. And I'm complete.
Thank you, Gina, for sharing. I did want to share, you know, as a counselor, when I was doing foreclosure prevention, I saw families. I even saw husband and wives who didn't even know what was happening in the household, and they both were living in the same house. Husband was managing the finances, wife did not know. And I saw children being affected by this loss. But the one thing I say encourages that this is temporary, right? And what I learned from my mom, she lost everything, but she gained it all back through her determination and her perseverance. And that's what I picked up. Even for myself, people like, oh my God, your credit's gonna go bad and all these, okay, well, you know what? I can change my credit, I can fix it. It's temporary. It's not, and I think that sometimes it's also becomes an extension of who we are. Oh, I own a home, you know, and that's how we want to keep it to ourselves and nobody's gonna touch it. And if something goes wrong, because you don't know how many people came to my office and who did not open the mail because they were afraid of the foreclosure documents that were in there, who were prideful, who didn't talk to their family. I have a family member of sales now where reverse mortgage, I don't want to get into that topic, but reverse mortgage was part of the conversation. And the family members didn't know because they want to be prideful and like, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. So we need to let go and say, it's okay. We lose it, no problem, we'll get another one. We know what we went through the experience already. And now we're gonna use that experience, dust ourselves off and move on and do some, and go on to the next one. Imagine my mom didn't have that perseverance or that thought. I don't know where I would be. I would not have, I moved from my mom's house to my own house because I didn't know to go, and I learned the experience of not renting, but you know, I moved in, I said, okay. And now it's through her demonstration without her even really telling me everything, what was going on. So thank you so much, Gina, for sharing. And I have hope. There's gonna be hope that they can.
Honestly, that's how I feel. That's one of the big reasons I want to purchase another house and investment property. They need to see that you can build it again. Like the same way you did it the first time, you can do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have hope too.
That's
Never
great.
too late. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
If you can
Before we do that, it's 7:58, and I want to jump in and say thank you to those who have joined us and need to leave for whatever reason. Do know that the contact information will be dropped in the chat and that the playback will be available on Facebook. So Teresa.
Can I just say one thing before we go to Teresa? I want to say thank you for everyone who's been sharing this morning. You have definitely made this conversation enriching and encouraging, and I hope it has been impactful to people and has really given people the opportunity to see, like, one, there's hope after the fire. Two, let's make sure that we have these conversations with our family members. 3, that you can definitely protect and through the proper resources, protect your legacy. And that legacy is something that's important. It's something that when we look back and people say, well, how come these neighborhoods or how come these people have all of this? It starts from that one home. And you don't need to have multiple homes. You just start from that one home and keep passing on that one home and keep growing that one home. We could definitely build legacy. So thank you so much for this morning, for everyone who shared. We had Adam, Sakia, Aaliyah, Terry, Jacqueline, just all of the, and if I forgot you, Gina, but definitely thank you all for sharing all your information. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Teresa?
Yes, hi, good morning. I live in an apartment building, and recently they were talking about the residents controlling the building. So one of the questions on the survey was, do you want to own a home? And I said yes, but when I was my job is to do it with other people. They quickly said no, and I was really surprised because you could just see like the fear. No, I don't want it. So I was like, wow. I was like, we have been like have a scarcity in mind about owning homes. But the main reason I want to say is that my grandmother and my grandfather had land. And so one of the things that we're dealing with now is that when my grandmother died, we thought that she gave everything to her to her niece. I'm sorry, to my cousin and to her mother. And so we just recently found out because my cousin called and said she wants to sign the title over to her so she can have the rest of the property. But in us doing that, we found that my grandparents had a lot of land and timber, everything. And so now we're in the process of trying to like figure out, like how can we, see like what's left, because there's a lot of, like paperwork that my sister and I have, looked up, and we see where they did a lot of like name changing, and this one took over and that one took over. So some of the things looks like really illegal. And so it's really been overwhelming for us, because just the fact of to know that, what happened too is that my grandmother always said, even to me, Teresa, she could come down and live, come stay in the house. But because of me, not seeing myself as a homeowner, and also physically not thinking that I could manage living in the country without, having transportation, I denied it. So I was dealing with some guilt lately about, missing an opportunity to have all of, lately I was dealing with some guilt about, here she is having this land, and it appears as if, it was like some trickery stuff to get her land. It's in so many different people's name. It's just a lot of stuff that, we haven't covered. So what we're trying to figure out, my sister's working on with some more papers, but eventually we have to just try to find a person who could be a lawyer and, for out of state, because we really don't know. And what the town that they live in, it's a lot of people that are connected that my cousin knows. So that's one of the things that, we're concerned about, is that she knows so many people. But my sister, especially her, she's like a hound dog. So she's not going to just let, the stuff, none of us not going to let it go. But we just found so much stuff that could help us, like really, like, find out what happened to the land and everything. So I'm excited. After all these years, I just thought we didn't have anything, and to find out that now we do have, access. But like you said, it has to go to the edge. You have to make sure that people do want to, be part of it, and and just take our time to figure it out. So, well, I think one of the things my sister's working on doing is becoming I think it's called administrator, where she can administrate over my grandfather's part of it. And so actually the town actually helped us with a lot of the stuff. So that was really a blessing. But, you're really keeping it like my father has a house. My mother passed 2 years ago. So that's one of the things my sister's worried about, is that can someone just come in and just take my father's house, because my father will sometimes just that different people come in the house and talk about different things. And for some reason, he doesn't seem to, get the understanding of how dangerous that is, that someone could just come and he could just sign papers. So we're working on trying to help him, stop that from happening. But it's a lot of senior, senior crime right now, with people just taking different people's homes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that, we're looking into, really making sure that, those things, like you said, are talked about. And thank you, and I'm complete.
Teresa, thank you so much for sharing. One thing I think we sounded in the beginning, well, first, keep the perseverance and keep on uncovering those steps and getting to it. I like to offer, so as a member where I used to work as a nonprofit organized community development corporation, in the United States, we have what we call HUD certified housing counselors. I don't know if you put that in the chat, but if you Google HUD HUD certified housing counselor, they're nonprofit, they're usually a nonprofit, and they're all throughout the United States. And they help you, they counsel you, and their resources, and it's free for the most part. So there's no monetary interest in helping you. It's just their mission to help people who are facing foreclosure, people who want to be a home buyer, but also as a resource to maybe uncovering some of these title issues or connecting with a title company. Because when you're in this space and people hear money, land, all these different things, they think dollar bill, right? They don't think about like, okay, how's this, this family trying to preserve their family. They're thinking of how can they get a cut in this situation? And so you want to meet with people who are going to be objective and just neutral in this conversation. So that's, to me, just offering as a resource. You can Google it, and then you can see in that town or that state which agencies are available, and then just at least start the conversation. They might not have all the answers, but they may be able to direct you to somebody that they work with to help you through this process. And it sounded like you were talking about an HDFC. So a lot of the times there's buildings that, the owners left, they just abandoned the buildings, and in the buildings, there's a lot of this happens. I mean, it happens throughout the city in New York, especially. And they give the opportunity, now a nonprofit may come in and they give the opportunity to the residents to own the property. There is a cooperative, but it's an HDFC. And most of the times you can purchase your apartment for, like, I had one time I was working with the building for $2,500. That was it, right? And then you're vested into that building. So some people, and they have conversations around that because people get nervous, like, what does this mean? Do we have no super, the maintenance, all these different things start populating because people don't, we're comfortable in our space and we're not looking to see this as an opportunity to stretch. And so they may get, discomfort around that. But there's organizations that help homeowners or potential homeowners to educate them through that process. So I just wanted to share that. I see we have a hand up from Vidya, who made my shirt, Legacy Maker. I just wanted to share that.
So, Imelba, this was amazing. Just listening to this conversation has truly just woken up like so many things in my brain, even though we talk all the time, right? So my question to you this morning is, the information that you dropped on us, how can we contact you at a later point? What type of workshops are you going to be offering that will help people on this conversation either talk to you privately or talk to you in a group? Because even when waking up this morning, I was like, 90 minutes is long, but this conversation could go on for about 4 hours, right? With so many questions and so many people wanting to get the information that's really needed. So what's our next steps from here? When you did the poll this morning, how many people own a home? I own a home, right? how many people want to purchase a home? I'd like to purchase another home. And the conversations around it, even many of us who are scared to take out the equity out of our homes to purchase another home. How do we contact you to get those questions answered and to understand that, you know what, this is a community space of people that we trust, and we would like to continue to work with people like you.
Ovidia, thank you so much. My information was put into the chat so that people can contact me. I was comfortable enough to give my cell phone number. Feel free to give me a call, text me. I'm always open to the conversation. And definitely, you know, in the first quarter of this year, I'll be hosting workshops on this particular subject matter, on just first, not necessarily just owning legacy, but just purchasing and then building that purchase. Because sometimes you may be a first-time home buyer, and something what Vidya just said is just buying that second home as well, right? How do you feel like, oh, I did it one time, woohoo, I'm good. But then how do you then say, I want to do this again and again? And maybe not in the space of like, people may think, oh, real estate investor, I'm going to flip homes and all these. No, but in the sense like my mom, right? She purchased one home and she's like, okay, this is for so-and-so, second home, this is for so-and-so. And in that mentality of like, I want to make sure that all my children are well taken care of. When they decide that they want to leave the house, that they don't have to leave the house to someone else to pay rent to someone else's home. They're going to leave the house to pay a mortgage for their home, right? And so I will be working on those workshops, and I'll share it out in the community before the end of the year. Thanks for that pressure, Vidya. And just kind of also seeing what people, what people want, right? Because I'm here. Although, like I said, real estate is my profession right now. I come from a place of contribution, and I love to see other people in abundance as well. There's so much out here for us. It's not just for one person, and that's why I did the job that I did at working with the nonprofit. And I also worked in a space where people may not be familiar, but in New York we have what we call Housing Connect. And it's a lottery for tenants. People think, oh, lottery is just for apartments. I actually helped 22 homeowners in a span of like 2 months, first-time home buyers buy homes through the lottery process in Brooklyn and in Queens for under market value. And when I say under market value, just an example, if you're familiar with Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn, all the homes here are $1 million and plus, as you can see in my brownstones picture, but $407,000 for a 2-family home, corner property, new construction. That's the kind of value I want to make sure that I can bring to people when they're looking to purchase or looking to transition to buy more homes. So I thank you for that. I feel like we're coming, I wanted to just add some points in regards to someone asking about equity. So a lot of times people say equity and you're like, oh, I can refinance. The way to get your equities, you refinance and you cash out and use that money to purchase another home. Thank you, Sakia. So equity, what does that mean? And in the simplest form is if I bought a home for $100,000, but the value of that home when appraised is really $200,000. I've walked into a space of $100,000 worth of equity once it has appraised. I can then use that money. Now, when you refinance a home or you do an equity line of credit, let's go with equity. And I'm speaking a little bit out of my space a little bit because I'm not a loan officer. So I definitely, double check everything with a loan officer who does this on a day-to-day. But from my experience and working with home buyers and homeowners is you can refinance, which is like doing the mortgage all over again. So if you had a 30-year mortgage and then you paid a couple of years, you're at 25 and you want to refinance, And some people do it for lower interest rate. Some people do it to change their payment. Some people even do it for transferring of information. Like when I inherited the property that I owned, at the time, my mom's name was still on the mortgage. I was on the mortgage and she was on the mortgage. I refinanced her for her name to be off the mortgage. So now it's 100%, not only it's my mortgage, who wants my mortgage? But anyway, it's a mortgage and I'm on the deed. But when you're doing the equity, you refinance, you can cash out some of that money and your term of your mortgage may go back to 30 if you wanted to, or you may, and then in that equity as well, some of the money that you think you're taking out, you're not taking it all out because you have to pay closing costs. So let me just recap, because I feel like I might have went out of sync a little. Equity, my house appraises for $200,000. I have a $100,000 mortgage. I have about $100,000 worth of equity. I want to take that money out and purchase another home. I can then refinance, cash out, take maybe $50,000. But of that $50,000, the things that are going to be happening are my term of my mortgage may increase. Secondly, the money that I'm taking out, I do have to pay some closing costs on it, not a lot. And third, when you're doing a refinance, only in a refinance, you have what they call a right of rescission, which is you have 3 days to decide if you even want to go forward with it, which is totally different from when you're buying a home. And in an equity line of credit, you're borrowing money against the property, again, your equity, right? Those $50,000, but instead of cashing it out in one big chunk of a check, the equity line of credit is like a credit card. You have this $50,000 there at your disposal, waiting for you to use it. And when you use it, it's just like a credit card. You pay interest on it, only on the money that you're using. You only pay back on the money that you're using. So it's almost like I have this $50,000 balance, credit balance, and I only pay interest and pay back the money that I used. I hope this was helpful. But that's how people can build wealth, right? You don't necessarily, you can, everyone's like, I need money. I don't have enough money, or these different things. I mean, it all goes back to how you manage your finances. And I always tell people when they're buying a home, or even when they have a home, what's your number? What's the number that you feel comfortable with paying every month, right? Or what's the number that you feel that you can stretch a little to pay every month? Being someone who moved from my mom's house into another house, I decided to live in the basement and rent the 2 floors. I didn't really have a number, but I knew one number, what I couldn't afford. And just a quick story is I wanted to live close to my mom, and my mom was big on like buy new construction and all these. So I was like, okay, new construction, but my goal was different. My goal was I wanted to live in the basement rent free and have the 2 apartments pay for my rent. Pay for my mortgage. I went into this house. It didn't really quite fit the goal, which is why that's important. You need to know your goals and your objectives. And in most new constructions, the basement is not done. So I would have had to have waited to get the basement done and live in one of the apartments, forfeit one of my incomes, and then move into that basement. So I went and was like, all right, I'm gonna live close to my mom, and this is okay, new construction, everything's gonna be fixed, no issues, no problems. And I went to the loan officer, I put the $10,000 down. I don't even know who my lawyer was at the time, but I put the $10,000 down. It's like, all right, I'm good. Loan officer came back, it's like, okay, this is your mortgage payment. I'm like, I was like, I can't, like that mortgage payment is, I mean, I was young by myself, like I can't pay that mortgage payment. And he's like, well, let me reevaluate the number. And the reason why I asked him to reevaluate the number is because if once you put in your down payment and your loan has been approved, guess what happens? You keep that home keeps going. And if you decide to forfeit that 10,000 or whatever amount of money you put down for down payment, it's gone. So grateful the loan officer reevaluated and declined my loan so that I can then get my $10,000 back to fulfill the goal that I honestly wanted, which in hindsight, the $10,000 is something was needed for something else in the future. But I just wanted to share those things. And I know some things I wanted to share in regards to purchasing a home is your goals, know your number, know your home ownership needs, know your timeline, and know your vision. And I'll just speak kind of briefly on those goals. Like I just said, I wanted to buy a 2-family home and live in the basement. My number, I knew I couldn't afford a certain amount of money every month on a mortgage to live comfortably. So I had to know this is the number, even though I was approved for X, because the loan is being used. I'm sorry, the bank is using your gross income, not your net, for that payment. I knew what I could afford. And my needs, I knew that I wanted to live in, I didn't really want to live in the basement, let's just be clear, but I knew at that moment I wanted to live in the basement, irregardless if it was a small window I used to look out every day at. That's the Jack answer. And then your timeline, I knew I wasn't gonna live in that basement forever. So I knew what kind of loan I wanted, and I knew I was gonna only live there for 2 years. So that's just, and your vision. What do you plan to do with that house? I do want to, before we start getting, I think we're coming to a close, wanted to get some feedback or some any unanswered questions or things that maybe resonating or percolating before.
Certainly. I'm looking through the chat and I went back some and I saw a question that Shawnee put in. I'm not sure if you answered it. It's how do you speak to your children about conflicts and lateness with tenants?
Fantastic. So I speak to them about this is a business. Being a landlord is a business. And the minute that I decided to rent an apartment, I need to operate as a business. I've been a landlord for 21 years, I have to look at the date, about 21 years. And not to say I haven't been in eviction court, but I've learned through the years that everything has to be put in writing. And the minute that there's an issue, I need to raise it. Now, I consider myself a fair landlord, so I'm not throwing people out the door, one, two, three, but I do tell them it's a business. So if there's a lateness, the tenant needs to be notified as a business. That there's a lateness and there's a fee. The minute that things start getting blurry, where I befriend the resident or people get comfortable and they take advantage. And I've been in that space because I started this when I was young. And so people think, oh, she doesn't know any better. Who does she think she is? Oh, whatever. And I got a lot of issues from people who look like me and who were older. So I tell them all the time, think of this as a business. There is a human part to this. So you don't want to, but you got to first start off with the business and open lines of communication. And this is how I work on preventing any conflict that's why I haven't been in any, but this is how I work on trying to minimize the conflict with tenants and understanding. I tell my tenants, I give, just so FYI, for me, I give tenants until the 5th of the month, because for years, I used to give them on the 1st of the month. And for years, it'd be like, oh, the first ended on this date of the week. And I was always having issues. So I give them to the 5th of the month to pay me. And since I did that, I've never had a late, I'm trying to think, I've never had a late payment. And I also give people grace. I let them know, don't tell me on the 5th of the month that you're late. And that's part of my conversation with them when I onboard them into the unit. Tell me in advance. I know things come up, life happens, but we need to have a conversation in advance to know what's your action plan? Because I can't call my mortgage company and tell them, hey, something happened. Listen, I'll call you and I'll pay you, maybe on the 20th. Is that okay? Like, they're not going to take that. Not only they're not going to take, they're going to charge me a fee. And then they're going to start the process of delinquency on me. So I operate as a business in essence. So I hope that answered that question. I see we have another question, a hand raised.
Yeah, Kaisha's hand is raised. Before Kaisha speaks, I want to read this from Ariane. I can't, and who also can't speak, but she says she's in the process of saving now for a home. She started the process to do a NACA, a program for first-time home buyers. Okay, and Kaisha?
Oh, I want to say NACA is a great program. I just wanted to share. I just helped someone purchase a 4-family home in the millions through NACA. So it's true. You just have to stay disciplined and ride the process.
Okay, Kaisha.
Okay. All right. Good morning, Imelda. Thank
Good
you for the
morning.
conversation. Like everyone else, it has sparked me to change the conversation between myself and my children. But I wanted to speak on when you talked about landlord and being a landlord. Um, I live in Texas, but I still own my first home in Colorado. And this is just an idea. I have a property manager, and it really is. Hiring a property manager really is not that expensive. It's 10% of the rent that is taken from the tenant. And property managers do it all. They maintain the home by conducting 2 inspections a year. And the tenants, if the tenants have any issues, they communicate to the property manager, and the property manager communicates to the owner. Um, so it has been very beneficial. And I've been doing this since 2015. So for 6 years now. And also, if anyone wants to get into property management, that's also a business that they can think about getting into. I wanted to also speak about. I'm sorry. Well, there's a few things. Also, what jump started my home ownership journey at the age of 28 was an investment program called Rich Dad Poor Dad. If anyone has ever heard of that. And it was a coach, and the coach and my goal was to be a homeowner at 30. And he gave me, like this conversation, he gave me ideas on how to look into that. I'm a veteran, so he motivated me to use my VA loan, and that is how I found. And the VA loan, or just like any other program, helps you with closing costs and everything, real estate investment and everything. So that's how I was able to accomplish that goal before 30. The other thing I wanted to mention was about, or you didn't talk, some people talked about their family spouses or their spouses and home ownership is, like you said, make sure the paperwork has either both of your names or your name, because relationships do break up and property is divided if you, and know your state laws. Um, Me personally, for example, my home in Colorado, my name, just due to finances and who had the better credit, like somebody mentioned, my name is on the property in Colorado, and property in Colorado is not a community property state. So therefore, I was in my divorce, it wasn't even a discussion. I was able to keep the home. However, in Texas, um, I have to work with a lawyer my ex-husband and I have to work with a lawyer to generate a warranty deed to where he will sign the home to me, to get his name off the property. Um, However, as I explained to him, he's not divulged of the mortgage. He's still responsible for the mortgage. I mean, I'm paying the mortgage. He has nothing to worry about, but his name is still on the mortgage. So if I decide to not pay, then the bank could go after him. And that is his responsibility to get his name off of the mortgage. So there's ways to that I've been learning in this journey of maintaining the business of home ownership. Um, and like someone said, you got to take the emotions out of it. Um, and also I'm motivated to talk to my children and to put this stuff in writing, regarding the homes. But I think I got the ideas from my grandparents. Unfortunately, my maternal grandmother had to give up her home that I grew up in Queens. And so just my grandfather was sick and medical bills and she couldn't maintain it, so she sold it. And then my paternal grandmother, she just asked me on Thursday if I would do a reverse mortgage, but she realized that I'm too young. I'm too young to do a reverse because she did a reverse mortgage. And from what I learned from this conversation was that the houses don't go back to the bank. I thought with a reverse mortgage, I know you don't want to talk about it, but I just thought reverse mortgage, the bank owns it. So when the owner passes away, then the bank takes it. But I think someone said that the family could sell the house and divvy up the proceeds. So that's all. That's my contribution to this conversation. I want thank you for the rich topics and the rich shares that that came from the community. I'm complete.
Thank you. You shared a lot. I want to touch everything, but I'll touch on the last part, which is the reverse mortgage. Yes, you can sell the house if the house is appraised and the amount that is owed, there's enough equity to sell, right? Because there's seller's cost. Secondly, you can sell. If you don't sell and the family wants to keep the property, then someone had to pay the mortgage back, all the money that's owed, right? Because remember, reverse mortgage, it's a pro and a con. It's a pro because it's like, yeah, I don't have to pay a mortgage for all the years that I'm living, but then at the end of the time, what was the decision, right? What was the conversation with the family to say, what's gonna happen after this, And yes, business, you spoke about it. So business mindset, I wanted to share that earlier, renter's mindset, home ownership mindset, but once you get into owning a second home or a property with tenants, it's a business mindset. And yes, you should consider strongly looking at your numbers, property management, right? Because that's what scares people. Oh, now I gotta, fix the toilets and all these things myself. Like, what am I, I'm not, who wants to be out there with the tools and things? It's cute in the beginning when you're like young and you can do it, but I don't want to shovel snow. I don't want to do any of those things. And so it has to be put into my, but be mindful. It has to be placed in your finances, right? No commingling funds, no like, oh, all my money's going into this one account, including my rental income and all these other things. It's a business, so you separate it. Some people put their business into LLC, those are, and then you have your own business money for your house that you don't live in, right? So these are things to think about when, so thank you so much for sharing. I mean, it's amazing. I love to hear these stories because it's empowering. Yeah, you want to say something?
One more about property management. The repairs of the home, which makes it so much easier, comes out of the rent payment. You do have to have a savings account to cover that mortgage. Because I use my rent for and I have an HOA in that neighborhood, and so I use my rent for the mortgage. But I've had some repairs, and it's just flipping. Oh, we'll take it out your rent. Okay, we'll take it out the rent. Great, but I do have a savings account to pay the mortgage.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to.
And you have to know how to manage those people. Don't think you're completely out of the woodwork because you let a property manager, because you still got to watch them because they don't have the same urgency or care for your property as you would, right? So you want to check in with them. You want to make sure that, okay, but what's this cost for? You want to do your own. Sometimes even for myself, I walk to a property. I don't have a property manager now because I still have an issue with that myself, but I'll show up at a property just to see what's going on these properties, because sometimes people may take advantage and be like, oh, she ain't never coming by here. And then you go and you're like, what is going on here? So, that's part of the process, but it's also fun sometimes when you pop up and people are like, huh? What you doing here?
Yes, done it. Yeah, you're so right. Thank you.
No problem. And NACA is, like I said earlier, is a good source. I mean, where else are you going to get a 1% down? What was it? I think 1.75% interest rate. So, take advantage of it. And also being a veteran, you don't have to put any money down if through a VA loan. So, but that doesn't mean always great. You got to also make sure that you know that you got to put some skin in the game to know that you have money aside just because you're not putting any money down. The same thing with NACA, you don't have to put any money down, but you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. So I wanted to, I don't know if there's any other questions or hands raised as we start coming to a conclusion of this conversation. I see Teresa have one thing to share.
I just
Yeah,
want
before Teresa speaks, Catherine Sweetness put in the chat, she says, what is the most important area of life? Having a place to live. Oh, employment is more important. And what's next? Having things in order in priority is key. We still have work to do. And I want to bring attention to Facebook. Facebook is there. Mostly Stacy and Sally are communicating the value that they're receiving from your presentation. And Stacy says she'll be contacting you because she's purchasing a home in the future.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to offer something up in the space. If we could forego Teresa's share and just move to hearing from someone we haven't heard from yet, just to like experience more of the impact of this conversation, because it has been very generative, very, very powerful. And I'm just looking at the thread and just, enjoying the fact that the community is getting a lot out of this. So we have Veronica who just raised her hand. So let's hear from you. And Imelba, you can say your final shares depending on what Veronica says, because she might light it up and take us to another space, but it's all good.
So good morning, all. I'm a homeowner. My husband and I purchased our first house in Brooklyn in 1979. And we bought the house for $42,000. And we grew out of the house and then we went looking for another house. And we couldn't get a mortgage back then. It was like 1980 something. And a second mortgage. So we had to sell the house and it was $42,000. We sold it for $110,000. And then we bought this house that we're in for $155,000. And all around me, houses are selling for $750,000. Imelba, you know that, right?
Yes.
And so over the years, we've had to refinance a couple times. And right now we have about 7 years left on the mortgage. And for people like us who have less than 10 years on a mortgage, do we prolong the mortgage or do we pay it off? And what is the most, and as I listen to this conversation, like we purchased acreage. And my husband just died 2 weeks ago, but he never was in favor of owning more houses, building on the house, none of that. But I would like to build in Virginia. And this conversation has led me to whether I should just refinance the house and build a house for cash. And is that wise?
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I want to say, and for me, it's always having more one-on-one, but I want to say is go back to almost like, what's your number, right? Do you feel comfortable in advancing your mortgage payment so that in less than 7 years, if the goal is say, you know what, I don't want to have a mortgage in 3 years, but I'm going to take the next 3 years and just pay off my mortgage as much as possible and be done with this. So then I can then have that income to use for something else, right? Or for whatever the goal is for that. Because I do believe in paying off, I believe it in paying off your mortgage, depending on what your objective is. Some people may say, don't pay off your mortgage because you're not gonna live there forever. You may move or whatever, so it's always important to know is what's the goal? Why am I paying off my mortgage quicker? Or why would I want to pay it off quicker? What am I going to do with that money? And once you have that answer, that will help you kind of lay out what your plan should be. Secondly, with the acreage, I'm all about build and build. Build for cash. If you have enough land, build some for cash and build some for hold. Doesn't have to be one way or another. It can be both, but got to sit down with your team of people, your advisors, people who are going to help you through this process to help you map it out. Because the one thing is what I've learned in going back to my foreclosure prevention days is people don't have a plan. They just do. And they think they're doing good because they're doing, but they're not. They're just doing things blindly. So my recommendation, first starting off with, what's my goal? Why do I want this? Like, ask yourself, what do you want? Keep asking, what do you want? What do I want? What do I want? And then that will hopefully filter out what that goal is and then work towards a plan to accomplish that goal. I hope that was helpful.
It was helpful, and I want to build legacy. That's the prime thing. I want my children to be on the same wavelength as me. And so that's my primary goal, is that they would understand what I was aiming for all these years. That's what I want. I want them to get the message.
And with that conversation, I would, with that goal, is starting that conversation now. It's not you want, make sure that we all want it, right? Do we all want to make sure that mom, when she's building that legacy, I want to be a part of that and have a piece of that, and know that mom said, I want to keep this house for us, for my grandchildren's children. Are we all going to be part of that conversation? Because guess what happens when I have that conversation and I get married to so-and-so, my grandchildren get married to so-and-so. No, we ain't touching that house, because we made a pact in 2021 that we're all going to keep this house for our children's children. And that's the conversation that we have spoken. I'm glad we're coming to a close, because that's what it is. It starts with a conversation. And after that conversation, it starts with an action plan. I've been thinking about this for the year 2022, the year of application. We're getting all this information and we're feeding on it and we're gnawing on it. And it's like, this is good information. But let's apply now. And you have to apply everything, apply a little bit at a time. What's one thing that you learned today that you can just take and say, I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna learn more about that and I'm gonna apply that, right? And so I hope that as I'm speaking to you and I'm learning from everyone speaking, I'm also like, hey, what am I gonna do? I have to apply too. Just be sharing information and not be implementer of what I'm sharing. So let's just really think about what was said here and the stories that were shared, because they were all great and they all touched in different ways. And then how do we use that to apply for our future? And that next time we have a conversation like this, people can be more, I already started the legacy conversation. My kids already know what we're planning to do. I already put this in place. I already contacted an estate planner just to even have the conversation. You don't have to pay all the time to speak to somebody, get a consultation. What does that mean? I already spoke to a realtor. I want to purchase a home and I want to be a first-time home. I call it the first-time legacy buyer, right? I want to be a first-time legacy buyer and I want to build my legacy through real estate. So I'm complete. I thank every single person in this space today, both on Zoom and on Facebook Live, for being a part of this conversation and talking about this journey, because it's not a destination, it's a journey, and it doesn't stop with just you. Thank you. Okay, and so for my special offer for today, I'm gonna give the first 10 participants who reach out to me via email, as you see on the bottom, a complimentary 30-minute consultation for either if you're looking to buy or to sell. And also know that this is a numeric value to this, but today I am offering it off for free. So first 10 people, and then after that, we'll discuss later what happens. So hopefully you can email me at imelba@kw.com. And like I shared with you guys before, earlier on, feel free to contact me via phone, via text. Allow for some grace if I don't get back to you right away, but definitely call and contact me. Text is always the best, 646-787-5899. Follow me on Facebook, For the Love of Real Estate, and as well as on Instagram. But with Instagram, it is For the Love of Real Estate, but with an S. And then, as you saw, my email address, imelba@kw.com, and then my website, Imelba Martinez, kw.com. Thank you, Sakia.
And I don't know, the Instagram, we had changed it and don't see the change now, but just you see, not what it is. It is, again, she mentioned it, but just bringing it up. It's the number 4, THELOVE of real estate with the S for Instagram.
Thank you.
Sure.
And as always, I hope, we always ask for love offering and donation. I hope that this information ignited you to move, but to move in a direction to make impact, to apply, to share, that you're sharing this with other people. So we ask you to share a love offering or donation. You can send it via Zelle or via QuickPay at SOWleadershipdevelopment@gmail, as well as in Cash App, Spirit of a Woman. But make sure that you put the code 466IM. The code is 466IM. And this information, a friend of mine always shares this with me. It's valuable, and I'm bringing it to this community because I really enjoy this community and love it. But these kind of conversations, these kind of workshops or presentations do cost to present, right? To share and the consultation. So I hope that you will consider, giving a donation or love offering to the organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Imelba. So today is Sunday, right? So tomorrow's Monday, and joining us tomorrow will be Kevin A. Johnson. His topic, don't be selfish. And
It's Joseph, Kevin Joseph.
Oh, what did I say? I'm sorry. Kevin Joseph. I'm still trying to say Johnson. And on Tuesday, Catherine is returning with her topic, High on the Hog, When the Ancestors Speak. So if you don't know, High on the Hog is the name of a film that you can catch on Netflix, I believe. So you might want to do that before you get to this session on Tuesday. And new members, I suspect there's some of you all out there, whether you're in Facebook or in Zoom. We want to know, like for real. So drop in the chat, I'm new, so that our more seasoned members can welcome you. And, you're now part of us, so welcome. We have an anthology book that we are creating. You are creating. Each one of you have an opportunity to share your story. We're asking that you fill out this 10-question survey by November 30th. That's Tuesday. So it was extended. So if you didn't do it before, you now have a couple of more days, literally, to do it. So you go to bit.ly/Woo Stories, and those questions will help you to unpack the stories that you have. And your story might be whatever the story is. It could be whatever the length is of the time that you've been in Wake Up Everybody. So if this is your first day, this is your story, and that's valid. So do go to the form and fill out the questions. And we're here 5 days a week. Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday are our long days, 7 to 8:30, and Monday and Wednesday are our short days from 7 to 7:30. We are here on Zoom and streaming live on Facebook each time. And if you want to receive alerts on your text, on your phone to say, hey, wake up, we're doing this person is speaking, then you will type this, type Blue Nation to the number 74121. So you can open up your text right now, put in the number 74121 as the telephone number, and Woo Nation in the comment section and press send. And there you go. We have swag. You can get yours today. Go to bit.ly/Woo swag, and you can choose from a variety of colors of each of these things: masks, t-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, and thermoses. And then you could represent bit.ly/Woo swag. And we are here. How do we get here? Is to register. Each person needs to do that every week. We have a new lineup of presenters, and we want to, and if you want to get the link and know who's up next, you will register at bit.ly/wake up movement. You might have also gotten a link, the Zoom link. Well, that's fine, but if you want the email, you want to go to bit.ly/wake up movement. We have 2 Facebook pages. One is private and one is public. So the private page is our group, and that has the history of our presentations as well as communications from all the members. Over 1,500 members are in the space. And the public page is the page where you, if you like it, you have to go to bit.ly/Woo Nation to like that page, and then you will receive notification from Facebook that says we're live. So the private page, I didn't mention the link, is bit.ly/Woo community. You go there and you will have to request to join. Okay, we're on Instagram and we're on YouTube. And if you want to send us an email, you can do so by going to it, by typing in info.wakeupseries@gmail.com. At this point, I'm going to drop the slide, and I'm Imelba, our thanks for this wonderful, informative presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for this
Imelda.
presentation.
Thank you
so
for Martinez for
much.
this great
God bless
presentation.
you so
You know,
much.
I lift you up.
Thank you, thank you, Mel.
Thank you,
Melba.
Imelba.
Thank you, Melba.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Melba.
Thank you so
Melba,
much, Melba.
Thank you,
This was
Melba.
for
wonderful,
bringing this
Thank
to
you,
enlightening.
Melba.
We
men.
need to talk about it.
Thank you.
Makes you
Every
Wonderful.
week,
think.
every week, every week.
Thank
Mel.
you,
Let the
Melba.
community
Thank
and
you
have
so
Thank
much.
you,
create that
Melba.
legacy.
Blessings
Thank
on
you.
all of
Love
your
Thank you.
family.
Have a
living your
wonderful day,
Helping us
purpose
to
and
everybody.
bless you.
serve your
God
life
bless you.
is so
Come back
amazing.
for
Thank
us. Thank
you,
you,
thank you,
Melba.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank you
thank
for
you.
being here for
For
me,
everybody
Melba.
who
Yeah.
cash
Melba.
app her, thank you very much. It is in giving that we receive. It is in giving that
Yeah.
we receive. Thank you, Elba. You've been amazing. You're a staple in the community.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Melba.
Yes. Let's pass
We
on the
look forward to
legacy.
having this education every week. Every week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Please come back.
Thank
Thank you,
Report.
Melba. I love you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Wake up,
All
everybody.
right.
Family.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Wake
Alma
Up.
team. Y'all rock. Y'all really beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Love you,
Thank you.
Melba.
T-shirt sister, post your info in the Wake Up Everybody page. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Imelba. Peace.
Melba, we love
Thank
you,
you,
honey.
Melba.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless.